Right, in this video, we are going to look at one-step equations with real-life situations or story problems. So this video is only one page. We're going to do 3 problems in this video. Okay, but every time in this whole unit or even the whole year when we do a real-life problem, I'll always ask you for 3 parts, so our A, B, C. So the first thing is, obviously, we're going to be writing an equation. That's our step B. So in our equation, we're going to have a variable. So part A is you're telling me what that variable represents, okay, which normally is what you don't know or you're trying to find. Okay. The tricky part with writing the equation is what operation to use. Okay. Many of you, especially with the one step, can give me the answer. You can solve it. But that's why in 8th grade it's really important that you're able to interpret what the equation is, you know what that variable means, and you can solve your equation. Okay, so we need all 3 parts, not just the answer. So on a quiz or test, each part is worth points. Okay, so let's look at this first problem. After Tyler donated 9 books to the school library, he had 28 books left. How many books did Tyler have to start with? So before I even think about answering the question, I like to do my step B first. The more you practice these, you'll be able to do step A a little bit easier. Okay, you might be able to do A now too. Define the variable. What don't we know? A lot of times you can find this in the question, right? What am I asking you to find? So how many books did Tyler have to start with? Well, I'm asking you to find how many what? Books. So that's probably what you're thinking A represents. You don't know the number of books, so we represent it with a variable because you don't know it. So X represents books. Okay, and you can really choose any variable. Some people like to use like B for books. Okay, I can use T here. I use X a lot. So X represents books. So you're telling me what that variable represents. Writing an equation, we normally have a total on one side of the equal sign, right? An equation has to have an equal sign. So I always look for some type of total. So in this case, my total is how many books he had left at the end. So we had 28 books at the end. So he started with how many books? Then he's donating 9 books to give us our total of 28 books left. So he started with some number of books. We don't know what that is, so that's why we're going to use X. And he donated 9 books. So donating should tell us what that operation is, which in this case should be telling us subtraction, right? You're donating, you're losing those books. So donated 9 books is equal to 28. Okay, what a bad equation would look like is if we had 28 plus 9 is equal to X. That's a bad equation. Okay, because this variable is already isolated. So this isn't the equation, this is already solved. So we've already kind of jumped to step C. So this is why writing the equation is tricky, because a lot of you, especially the one step, kind of want to start solving it in your head. Okay, so really focus on getting that equation down and then think about solving it. So if I take my X minus 9 equals 28 and I solve it, if I donated 9 books, the inverse is then to add. So we're going backwards and thinking how many did I start with? 28 plus 9 gives me 37. And in this part, I always want you to tell me your units. Okay, so 37 what? What does that number represent? Well, X represent books, so this should also represent books. How many books did Tyler have to start with? 37 books. So there's one more equation that would count here with subtraction. So technically, if you had this equation, it would also work. But this is probably the main one you would get from the story. Okay, but that's a bad one. So sometimes there's more than one answer acceptable here, but there are also some wrong answers there. So I'm just going to go through and work through these, but if you are feeling confident with story problems and you want to pause and try it first, I encourage you to do so, but I know a lot of students struggle with story problems. So since this is our first time this year, I'm just going to go through and do a bunch of examples. So number 2, Skylar spent $84 on books. That cost $12 each. How many books did Skylar buy? Okay, so again, I'm asking you to find the number of books, meaning we don't know the number of books she had to buy. So we're representing that with a variable. So X is books again here. So I spent $84 on books. So that kind of makes me think of a total, right? I spent a total of $84. So that goes on one side of the equal sign. It's our total number. It cost $12 each. So the word each here is the word that kind of hints at what operation we should be using. $12 each, or for every book. So every is another word we could have used here. That means the same operation. In this case, it means to multiply. $12 for every book. Okay, so 12x equals 84 is our equation. So to solve our equation, we are going to divide. I spent $84. How many 12s can I get in there to tell me how many books? 84 divided by 12 is 7 books. I should have circled my answer there. All right, so I said we were going to do 3. We're not going to do this last problem. Okay, so we're going to look at one more in the video. So Allison uses a total of 93 cups of dog food each week to feed her dogs. So before I even go on, I'm kind of thinking, ooh, this might be my total. They even used the word total there. Okay, but let's keep reading. Total of 93 cups of dog food. Each dog eats, ooh, there's that word each again. Dog eats 31 cups of food each week. How many dogs does she have? My question is asking for how many dogs. You don't know how many dogs. That's our unknown. That's our variable. That's what we're trying to find. Okay. So, total of 93 cups of dog food. 31 cups for each dog. So that each word, again, we saw in our last problem, means multiplication. So 31x is equal to 93. So when I solve that, we're going to divide by 31. 31 can go into 93 3 times. So she has 3 dogs. Okay. And it is important that you write the units here, because I have a lot of students who still get that wrong. I've had some people tell me 3 weeks here. But then if you go back and read the question, how many dogs does she have? Does the answer 3 weeks make sense? No. Okay, so your variable here should match in part C, and it should match your question. So you really got to think about the whole thing. Good, so you have some practice to do now.